Hello, everybody, and welcome to Temi. Temi is an international software development company that designs, builds, and delivers software for sustainable businesses and promising startups. My name is Matthew, and I'm joined today by Mr. Amar Mistry, who has an impressive list of executive positions that he's going to talk us through today. We're not just going to focus on one. Amar, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm very good, thank you. It's running up to Christmas and getting into that festive spirit, and I'm pleased to be here with you today.
Thank you very much for taking time out of your schedule to join us. Amar, before we begin, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're busy with at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. So the best way to describe me is somebody that's always been pushing back on stereotypes. I started out way back. I guess it's a bit of a rags to riches type story. So I'm from a working class type background. I was the first in my family to go to university. That was great. I learned how to sort of struggle my way through campus and so on and so forth. Got into accounting and management degree, which again was okay, but I didn't really like the idea of being an accountant. Then came out, I spent 10 years in corporates, and really enjoyed learning what it meant to run a business. But actually, I didn't really like being called an accountant. That was never really something that sort of sat well with me. I felt I had more to offer than just being an accountant. No disrespect to accountants. And in the last 10 years is where I've really come into my own. So in the last 10 years, I worked with about 22 different entrepreneurs in various different businesses. So I've seen a lot of different businesses. I've been in lots of different growth cycles in lots of different sectors. So I consider myself as an entrepreneur that works with entrepreneurs, but I've never started my own business. It's not something I'm intent on doing either. So that's a bit of a whistle stop on me there, Matt.
That's fantastic. When you finished studying, how did you get into accounting? Let's start there. How did you choose accounting?
How did I pick it? I was under pressure from my parents to pick a degree course, and I thought to myself, accounting and management would be something that wouldn't disappear. I didn't know about AI back then, but I don't know, it's still hanging around. But yeah, I don't know, I was okay with numbers, but I wouldn't necessarily describe myself as somebody that's particularly, I'm not the smartest person in the room, but I work very hard on things and sort of refine and develop. I sort of started out in accounting, came out of university, and then found myself hitting a bit of a brick wall, actually. I sort of imagined I'd leave university with this shiny degree, and then all of a sudden I would be welcomed into lots of different places and at a way I'd start my career. But that never really happened. I sort of came out, struggled my way into a recruitment consulting job for a little while, which was good. It teaches you how to present yourself and how to talk, which was good. But in order to get into finance, what I actually had to do is I had to graft. I had to go out. I rang every local accounting practice in my area to see if I could get in. I doorstop people, like literally went to their offices and said, "Look, this is me. I want to get into finance. Please help me." I remember being on the tube and seeing people with lanyards from financial institutions and just stopping and asking if they had a job. All terrible ideas and things, actually, when you look back on it. None of them led to me getting a job, but eventually landed upon myself a recruitment consultant that actually sort of understood and believed in me or what I could do, and then managed to sort of shoehorn me into a graduate program, and that was it. From there, I was able to start sort of building a career, really.
Wow, that's it's a pretty cool story. It shows a bit of tenacity there. It takes something else to stop strangers in the street and go door knocking to put yourself in a good position. So good for you there. And then tell us about the build up then to where you are today. So you got a foot in the door and you started growing. What were your next steps then?
Yeah, so I came in as obviously at this point I've joined a corporate as an accountant. I'm one cog in a very big machine. and what happened? So something very important happened. I was sat next to a guy who was very good on Excel, Microsoft Excel, and I've never been one for wasting my time. I've never sort of bought into the idea that you had to do a 9 to 5 to get a full day's work done. It was all, for me, it was always just about, look, just tell me what needs to be done and I'll get it done. And anyway, sitting next to this guy who was an expert on Excel, I would sit there with him every single day and just be like, look, his name was Trev. And I'd be like, Trev, what do you reckon? Could I do this? Could I try that? What about? And he was like, no, do this. So he was basically just refining these skills of mine in Excel. And what that led to is then I was drawn into other conversations around the actual financial model for that business, which was fantastic, because it got me into understanding how every part of a business affects another part. So you start to understand all the levers that make and drive for success. And then I realized, oh wow, actually this is quite interesting stuff, actually, because now all of a sudden it's not just about you don't just create a business. I mean, you sort of do, you sort of don't, but when you've got this thing running, it's like, in order to build it and grow it and make it successful, there's lots of little tweaks, little adjustments that you can make on the way that have a big impact. So I was sort of sat there in this room with, on the one hand, this Excel guru on one side, and on the other hand, sitting with the sort of central finance team, and we were looking at plans and budgets, forecasts. And then I'm drawn into all these conversations with other directors, and PLC directors are truly a different breed. I mean, they operate on another level. They're very strategic in their thinking. They're very technical in some areas. They're very detail oriented in others, but they're very good people to work around. And I found myself being able to sit and work alongside these people, talking to them about, oh, actually, this is what the spreadsheet says, and then they would tell me what the real world application of that might look like. And it was brilliant, because it actually gave me this real solid foundation for what I could build on. And then I've sort of taken some of these things and then put them out into what has been the startup and sort of growth environment with building businesses.
When you decided to move on and to follow this new course, you mentioned beforehand you were under a bit of pressure from your parents to, have a regular job, accounting, management, but then you had to transition out. What was that like for you? How did that go down?
So first off, it wasn't, they never pressured me to have a regular job. They always actually just believed in whatever I was going to do, I'd make a success of. So that was good. But what they did do is make sure I didn't miss opportunities by just being a lazy teenager and not filling in my UCAS form. So they never. I've never felt any pressure from my parents from that. But when I left to go from this, which is a good question actually, because I was in this position where I was on a program. By this point I'm into my second PLC, and I've gone, and I'm the youngest member of this head of functions level, which is the level below directors, and making a big impact, and things are going well, my team's going well, everything about what I'm doing is going in the right direction. But also found that it was a bit empty. I always felt like every day was just racing into the next, and actually what was it all going to count for and mean in the end? And the CFO at the time was my mentor. Obviously he was my boss as well, but he's my mentor. And I just said to him, look, am I going to be your replacement? And he said to me, look, no. He said, I would like to think you are. I'm grooming you to be that way. But the reality is, it's not the way that this will work. Is that they'll look for experience, they'll look for age, they'll look for tenure. These things are going to all come in to play their part. And you won't match up in that regard. And that's what happened. So as soon as he said that to me, I was like, look, fine, I'm going to have to look at an alternate option. And when I went out to look at something new, I didn't sit there and think to myself that I'm going to go off, find myself a job working with entrepreneurs. That isn't what I thought. I thought to myself, I'm going to go off and find myself a CFO appointment in another PLC. That's where my mind was at. I was like, nobody's going to tell me no. I'm going to go off and find my way into this. Through a headhunter, he came back to me. He said, look, there's this job. So it was a much smaller business. It's maybe doing, 3 million in revenue. So it's tiny business in comparison. And I met the owner, and I just thought, wow. I mean, my first real experience of meeting an entrepreneur and sort of sitting in a room with them for an extended period. And this guy was on another level. He was just chucking ideas out of everywhere and anywhere. Like, we would just talk and he'd come up with more ideas, and I would sort of explain to him, well, that just doesn't really sound like it's going to work. And it didn't feel like a job interview. It felt like a conversation. And I didn't actually know whether I wanted the job at that point anyway. So we were just sort of sparring off one another with these things. And then when I sort of went away and I sort of thought about it, I was like, wow, what an opportunity to be part of a team that's going to go off and do half of what this guy's just said. So at that point, I was like, no, this is a no-brainer for me. And that was it. I jumped in. I was going to work with this guy and join his rocket ship.
Fantastic. Tell us a little bit about that then. So you got in, you started working with him, and what did that develop into?
The reason he hired me, I think he joked about this, but he said, I think you'd be a good person to have on an aeroplane with, a good person to travel with. That was, so he's hired me as a CFO, but that was one of the key requirements. Could he travel with me? But we went to lots of different places in the world. Like we were a branding agency. So what we did, we built brands for luxury, hospitality resorts. That's fundamentally what we were doing. So I had a big operation up in Dubai. So I was in and out of Dubai and looking at the business, trying to work out what's going on, what's not. And then again, it's probably a big learning. So I went in, and this business had been running for 4 or 5 years, big team. So it's probably 60 people at that point, to big in comparison for these size businesses. And I started to have a look at it, and I was saying, look, the business is losing money though. Like literally, there's cash. We're not collecting enough cash, so our bank balance is dropping. This isn't a good sign. And so immediately got into this cycle of having to do sort of a restructure for the business. And at this point, you have to I have to bring myself back to where I was at that point in my career. So I'd been the guy before that where I would feed plans in to an executive board that then might consult on those thoughts, bring perhaps some other people in, come back to me, and it'd be a process. You could be talking 2-3 months before a decision is even made. And at this point, I had this conversation with the owner. Say we're losing some money. It's like, well, let's just make some changes. Let's lose some people, because it's a people business. That's the only cost you can really lose. And in the space of, it would have been 2 weeks, I'm into this cost reduction exercise where we're cutting heads, losing people. And it was a real dose of reality immediately, like, bam, like, this is it. This is what it means to be working in an entrepreneurial business. It's like, decisions happen, they happen quickly, and you've got to be prepared to run with it. And this is where we were straight off the bat.
Letting people go is never easy, but you must have learned quite a lot about yourself through that process. Can you maybe tell us about some of the things that you discovered about yourself, woke up one day and went, wow, this is, a lesson that I never thought I'd learn?
Yeah. Well, I definitely learned that I'm very good at compartmentalizing. So I can deal with multiple different things at any one time because I just put it in a box, and then I can close that box, open it, and come back to it. And that's very helpful when you're going through a restructure and you're losing staff. The other thing that I guess I learned in doing a restructure is that it's not about you. And this is a funny construct for some people, because you go through, if you're a manager and you're letting somebody go, it's tough on the manager. For most people it is anyway. But what you forget though, or what you shouldn't forget, and I did unfortunately through some of these, is that you might be having a bad day because you've got to share that message, but the other person on the other side of the table is having a bad day because they're just losing their job, and they're going to take that personally no matter what you say. They're going to be angry, they're going to be shocked, there's going to be implications into their home lives. There's a big set of things that happen off the back of that. So I very, very much through the process of restructuring, it was like, look, there's business. There is, when people say it's just business, it is just business, and there's a way to handle that. And what I learned through the process of restructuring is that what you have to do is make sure you do it as humanely as you can. So that's not building it up or embellishing it or saying, look, this is really tough for me to say this or anything like that. It's like, look, this is what's happened. This is why we are where we are. This is the decision as it is. Please take this time, go and think about it, and come back to me when if you have any questions. I've always been able to just section things off. I could very easily sort of start something up, have a conversation, and then put it back down, put it away without finishing it. And I think that's really helpful actually when you get into growth businesses, because not everything follows a neat path. So it's good to be able to start and stop, and sort of living in the grey area rather than everything being black and white. But through the process of sort of restructuring and reshaping this business, they've been around for 4 years at the time I arrived, and they were very much a sort of I wouldn't describe them as a family-oriented business, but they were a bunch of pals, mates, everyone was just having a good time. And then there's me rolling in saying we need to sort of let people go. And I felt it tough on me. I really did. Like it's not an easy thing to do when you're sort of letting people go. But when you go into those rooms, the thing to remember is that it's not about you. It's about the other person on the other side of the table. So when you sort of go through these things, you just got to sort of rip the plaster off, but do it in the most humane way that you can, right? So I took the view that what I would do is sort of explain the facts of the circumstance, and you get into, look, okay, this is what's happened. This is where we are. This is what's going to happen next. And then you sort of leave it to the other side, the other person, and then you become the punching bag if you have to be. You sort of gear up and answer the questions if you need to, but that's just how these things are, So when people say to me like it's just business, in some respects it is, but then there's in these sort of conversations where you let people go, you don't get the opportunity for it not to be business. Actually, is where I think it probably goes. Because if you try and make it very personal after that, you just go, look, I know you've got your holidays and everything planned. I know you've been looking forward to this, and I know your children are going to go off and do that. That's not a helpful thing to say to anybody. If anything, you're sort of rubbing salt in the wound. It's like, well, you know all those things, and you're letting me go anyway. Like, what is this? So, I know lots of people get split on that. It's just business thing, but I think that for me is where it really does have to just be business.
So some heavy lessons to learn, but also some very good advice then for people facing similar situations from both ends. Tell us about your build-up now into AVC. What's going on there? How long have you been involved? What is the big story behind AVC?
Yeah, so AVC-wise started 5 years back, which is a bit of an MO for me. I like early stage businesses. And really what we do is we help people plan for their future. You just don't see, people don't get educated on how to prepare for retirement, or how to save money, or how to sort of budget, or any of those things early on in life. So what we started out as doing is we were a business that has a service, and our service is to go into public sector organisations to explain to them what a pension scheme is, and then to facilitate them putting the money into that pension scheme. That's what the business was doing pre my arrival, and still does that, and does that very well. But now what we're doing since my arrival in is we're now looking at how we can expand those services, rather than just being on retirement and a retirement focus, but into things, other areas of financial well-being. So things like your budgeting, things like insurances, things like estate planning, things like life events, key major life events. All of these aspects that constitute a financial education is what we're now looking to service. So we have some big partnerships with some big organisations, which I can't get into too much detail on today. We have a platform that we're going to be launching into Q1 next year, which allows somebody to come on, and they'll be able to come in and do their own financial health check, and then from that we'll be able to tailor advice to them based on what it is that we've learned about them. We have coaching sessions, like one-to-one coaching sessions, webinars. We have retirement calculators. We have pension modelers. We have budgeting tools. We've got this whole selection of services. But the key thing is it's services tailored to the individual, and that's what makes the difference. Because not everyone learns the same. Coming from a family of teachers, everyone learns the same, and everybody is at different stages on that spectrum of financial well-being. So that's fundamentally what we are. That's what we do at AVC-wise.
What about your role at AVC, your growth in the future? What are you looking at accomplishing long-term? You said that it was a bit of an MO for you. What are you looking at progressing into?
For me, I think if you're going to be, and what separates, I think, founders and entrepreneurs to people that sort of get into the corporate world and build is intention. That's the big difference, right? So if you're going to set up a business, you have to have an intention of what it is that you're going to go off and do. And truthfully, for a long time, I had that. I had that all the way up until the point where I left the PLCs and joined my first growth business. Because I wanted to be a CFO. So that was my focus. I wanted to get to the top of that tree. And then I wanted to become a CEO, and I've done that. But now where my focus sits is that I want to find avenues to build generational wealth. So I don't just want to build one business and take that to the top of the mountain and get and sell or whatever it is it becomes at the end of that. I want to get into building out multiple businesses. So I'm looking at ways in which I can use my skill set in joining dots within a business, problem solving, leadership, all those things to actually help on a bigger scale. So that's where my focal points are at the moment.
Well, Amar, look, you've given us a very nice idea of your journey. You've done a lot of different things, and it's been quite a unique pathway that you've taken. If you could give anybody starting out, any youngsters around listening, our viewers and that, any word of advice, anything that might help them along their way, what would you say?
I guess it's a bit of a collection of things, isn't it? Like you got to trust in your own abilities. I've always been blessed that I've had family and friends that have always done that for me. You've also got to do the hard graft. I mean, that is one thing I've always been good at. Like, I will go all in. I was, if it comes to reading a 100-page contract, I'll read every single page. I'll check every single line. If it comes to launching a product, I want to speak to hundreds, thousands, is exaggeration, but you get the point. I'll get into the detail and I'll go all in on it. And that's what it takes, I think, to sort of break the mold. If you want to get out of that corporate treadmill, and I'm not beating up on corporates because I think there is a place for that, but if you want to break free of that and do something differently, then what you've got to be prepared to do is take the leap, and then when you're on the treadmill, run hard and run fast, because it will just eat you up and spit you out otherwise.
Fantastic. That's good advice. Is there anything that you wanted to mention that I may have missed out today? Any last words for our viewers?
No, look, I share a lot of posts and things on LinkedIn around different approaches to leadership and how you can become an entrepreneur without starting your own business. And that for me is something that really carries weight, because I've come, as you described earlier, when you leave a corporate job or an environment where you've got relative security, and then you take a leap into something different, you may not want to go off and start your own business, but there are ways to find that entrepreneurial, that creativity, that freedom, and the rewards as well, without actually having to go off and start your own business. So give me a follow if you want to hear more on that journey. Fantastic.
Amar, I just wanted to say thank you from our side, and thank you for your patience with the Wi-Fi issues today. We will be keeping our eye on you, and obviously wishing you all the best for the future.
Nice one. Well, very nice to meet you too, Matt. Been a pleasure.